Hi, my name is Oliver Hamlet and I'm a team member of the Applied Psychology and Human Factors group at Aviation University. In this short podcast, I'm going to run you through the topic of non-technical skills within aviation. I'm going to talk a bit about our current research within that domain. So what are non-technical skills? Put briefly, non-technical skills are the social and cognitive skills that assist a worker's technical capabilities within their working environment. So the social skills are communication, leadership and teamwork, which are all fairly self-explanatory. The cognitive skills are situation awareness, so an awareness of what's going on around you, decision making, and task management, which involves planning, prioritization, and fatigue and stress management. So all sorts of jobs use non-technical skills on a daily basis. Some examples are doctors or surgeons, farmers, construction workers, emergency services, the shipping industry, or even nuclear industry. In fact, I can guarantee that you use non-technical skills on a daily basis. For example, if you're driving your car, let's take the example of situation awareness. You have to be aware of what's going on inside the car, you have to be aware of what's going on outside the car. You have to comprehend what these elements mean, and you have to be able to plan and adjust appropriately to stop something disastrous happening. For example, braking to avoid a pedestrian. So the history of non-technical skills research is very much embedded within the history of fixed-wing aviation. It's worth noting at this point that 70 to 80% of aviation accidents have been found to implicate human error. In fact, it was precisely these findings that led the aviation industry in the late 70s to develop crew resource management training. In other words, non-technical skills training. In fact, crew resource management training has proven to be very effective, so much so that other industries have followed in aviation's footsteps. One of the methods that aviation uses in order to test and assess non-technical skills is called NOTAMs. Behavioral marker systems such as NOTAMs can be very useful to assess non-technical skills, as they allow an observer to confirm the presence or absence of positive skill behaviors relative to the high-risk industry in which the behavioral marker system is being used. So what about general aviation? Between the years of 2012 and 2016, the accident rate for general aviation was on average 292 incidents per year. Now that's fairly alarming when you bear in mind that 70 to 80% of aviation accidents implicate human error. Currently, the Applied Psychology and Human Factors group are conducting research into the non-technical skills of general aviation pilots, focused primarily upon risk perception and decision making. Preliminary findings have shown that pilots are more cautious about taking off if they're ill or if they find equipment is faulty. However, pilots are less cautious when they find that items such as checklists are missing or when they are experiencing stress. In fact, even maintenance crews utilize non-technical skills on a daily basis. Recently, the Applied Group has conducted research investigating the non-technical skills of Scottish and English aircraft maintenance crews. The research team has found that maintenance crews have different perceptions of non-technical skills dependent on their location, with Scottish crews showing more positivity towards situation awareness and teamwork than their English counterparts. But what about helicopter pilots? Helicopters are unique. They require minimal ground infrastructure, they can take off, hover, and they can access remote locations that fixed-wing aircraft can't. Because of their unique capabilities, helicopters are ideal for specialized tasks such as search and rescue operations, offshore transport, and medevacs. This of course raises the question of how similar helicopter pilots' non-technical skills are to fixed-wing pilots. Do these skills vary according to mission parameters? Are these skills variable between roles? My PhD has been concerned with these questions. So a couple of years ago we conducted our first study. Firstly, we analysed the Air Accident Investigation Branch's database for recent human error-related helicopter accidents. We then interviewed search and rescue and offshore transport pilots. We thematically analysed those interviews and produced pilot skill lists. In essence, the non-technical skills and their subcomponents specific to the pilot's roles. The good news is we found that helicopter pilots do indeed use non-technical skills. Of course, this shouldn't come as a surprise. What we did find was that non-technical skills were focused upon different factors and varied in their behavioural sub-elements. So while both teams would use situation awareness would be focused on different factors. Our analysis showed that search and rescue pilots were making reference to a set of adaptable behaviours that did not have an ideal fit with any other non-technical skills. So we went back to the literature and we found a concept known as cognitive readiness. The term cognitive readiness originates from military contexts. It describes the ability to be prepared, flexible, and react to unforeseen circumstances. So we added this skill to our coding schemes and found that it was an ideal fit for that outlying data. For our second study, we conducted focus groups made up of either search and rescue or offshore transport pilots. We had them order the non-technical skills in terms of relative importance to their role, review our checklists from the previous study, and discuss factors which influence their non-technical skills. What we found was cognitive readiness and situation awareness were most frequently rated to be of highest importance to search and rescue pilots. We found that very interesting because for many of the pilots we were introducing that concept. The pilots suggested minor amendments to the wording of our pilot skill lists, and they also provided us with a host of factors that influence their non-technical skills. We broke those factors down into environmental factors, the state of other non-technical skills, stress, workload, changes, individual factors, and crew interaction. The four that came up the most were non-technical skills, stress, individual factors, and crew interaction. So we decided to set up a questionnaire to see how these factors affect each other. For example, we wanted to see which non-technical skills related to each other. And we wanted to see whether increases in things like stress, or tiredness, or arguments with a colleague would lead to a perceived reduction in the usage of non-technical skills. While the questionnaire is still in its data collection phase, we've been able to see some trends already. For example, we can see that stress has a negative effect on many of the non-technical skills. We haven't found a correlation for fatigue in the non-technical skills, but we can see that fatigue correlates positively with both stress and bad crew interaction. Interestingly, we can see that there's no difference so far between search and rescue and offshore transport in terms of their ratings of cognitive readiness. And while that result may change when we get more search and rescue pilots to take part, it could indicate that offshore transport pilots also use cognitive readiness on a daily basis. That leads us to our final study. When we were conducting the first interview studies, we exclusively talked to the pilots. We didn't go through the interview with the rear crew. We realise now that may have been a mistake. Rear crew are fundamental to the role of search and rescue operations, and as they're a crew, they contribute to the team usage of non-technical skills. For example, the winchman and the winch operator will take part in looking out for a casualty, and they'll help make decisions on a flight. The winchman is lowered by the winch operator towards a casualty, and a lot of the fundamental decisions on a rescue flight are based around getting that paramedic to the casualty. So currently we are interviewing the rear crew of the search and rescue teams. We want to know how they facilitate non-technical skills, and we're taking them through the same interview that we did the pilots a couple of years ago. In the same method, we're analysing the interviews, and we should be able to then see afterwards how they contribute to team non-technical skills, and whether they have different skill sets altogether to the pilots. While we don't have any concrete findings as of yet, we can see at this point that search and rescue rear crew utilise non-technical skills differently from pilots, and they have those non-technical skills focused around different factors. So that's all I've got time for in this podcast, and I hope that brings you up to date with the type of research that we're doing at the moment. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop me an email, and be sure to visit the APHF website to stay up to date with our current research.